Call to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on roll call, Mr. Ayre.
Here.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Here.
Dr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Vanstone.
Here.
Mr. York.
Here.
All right, a motion and a second to excuse Mr. Bartlett. He did send me a message.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayre.
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Vanstone. Mr. York.
Aye.
Aye, all right, we'll excuse Rob. All right, I've got a memo in here from the chief regarding Emily Howell. Chief, do you want to say a few words about Emily?
Sure, yeah. Emily, if you just want to come up to the podium there. Emily obviously is a warrior, and she's done a great job for us. She was hired here as a patrol officer on October 1st, and so she completed her 1 year of probation. She started her career at the Mount Healthy Police Department, where she served for 2 years as a patrol officer. Then she served almost 7 years with the Reading Police Department as a patrol officer and a detective. She's a member of the Hamilton County Police Association Mobile Field Force Team. 2009 graduate of 2012. She obtained an associate's degree from ITT Technical Institute. She's a 2014 graduate of the Butler Tech Police Academy. And like I said before, she was hired here as a patrol officer October 1st of last year. And I can't say enough good things about Emily. We all know that she's a fighter, she's a warrior, and we're proud of her and just extremely happy to have her here. So I'm requesting that she be removed from probationary status to a regular employee status.
All right, a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayre.
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Vanstone.
Aye.
Mr. York. Aye. All right, welcome back, kid.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And if you want to say anything, you can.
Yay.
Did you hire another woman?
No, not yet.
Way to go. Glad to have you back.
I just want to say thank you to everybody, especially everybody in the village for backing me up, especially over the last 10 months. I'm sure everybody is aware that I've had a battle with cancer. I'm cancer-free now, and I hope to be back by the end of the year. So thank you so much.
What shift?
All right, any question regarding the minutes? This will be from the September 23rd meeting.
Okay.
No? All right, a motion and a second to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Mr. Ayre.
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Vanstone. And Mr. York.
I just want to, actually, I need to abstain. Excuse me.
All right, we'll put you down as abstained. And then we have what appear to be the minutes from the September 25th special meeting of council. That's fairly short and straight to the point. I doubt there's any questions regarding that. Motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Mr. Ayre. Come on, Randy, get it in there. Ms. Brown.
Aye.
Susan, you wanted that one.
Oh, I wasn't at that one? Oh, okay. Abstain, please.
Okay.
I'm just gonna- Dr.
So we can
Lewis.
pass them
Aye.
on through?
Mr. Vanstone. Mr. York. All right.
Oh, there's four.
All right, in communications, we have the report from the maintenance department. Sure, everybody's looked that over. Ben, do you have any additional comments to add? No, I do not. All right. I want to say, I think Ben and all of our guys did a really good job of cleaning up this village.
Yes.
You know, after the storm blew through, a lot of limbs down, a lot of trees down, so on and so forth. Really did a great job. In addition to doing that, he was helping me with my one project in the median, so I was pulling guys off of that. So kudos to Ben.
Yay, Ben. Go, Ben.
All right, we have the tax report from Tax Administrator Barlow. Any questions regarding that? I mean, the one comment that I'll make is that, I'll have to talk to Chuck about this, but it seems like our collections are running slightly ahead of projections for both '23 and '24. We're almost $500,000 ahead. Now, you know, we don't want to make complete hay out of that because there can be weird anomalies that make, you know, this show up in the numbers. But at the moment, it's looking very good. So any,
I was gonna point out the net profit seems to be on a 3-month cycle, and my question is, as we go forward to our meeting in December, will this kind of income be considered and going forward into next year, or what are we gonna do about it? I'm just a question for Kelly, I don't expect an answer.
Kind of more, I mean, this tax stuff is kind of Chuck's baby, so we'd want to have that conversation with him as well.
I understand.
like I said, can be anomalies, you know, that appear, you know, through certain time periods. So you want to be careful not to count your chickens before they're all hatched, you know, kind of a thing. But we can clearly consult him to his opinion as to he thinks, is the trend going to hold? Is it, you know, what does it look like, that kind of thing?
That's where I was.
Okay.
Because it's a recurring 3-month thing.
Right, okay. All right, that's all we have in communications. It looks like permission to address council. And it looks like we have a very pleasant group in here tonight, so I'm certain someone wishes to address council. Do we have a volunteer that wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, state your name, please.
Greg Wells, live on Pleasant Street. Been someone in the village for 28 years. My wife Lila and our 3 boys. So I'm addressing council again regarding just a lot of the changes in the park, Dale Park, et cetera. I'm not really sure exactly where we stand right now, but I thought I would just sum it up with just a real brief view that kind of caught my feelings. I started thinking over, you know, the Mariemont, it's a community with a great historical significance, founded by Mary Emery, planned by John Nolan in 1923, long before anybody here was born. You know, in 2007, the village of Mariemont was designated a National Historic Landmark, which I think all this we all know. But, you know, people here in the neighborhood call it a walking neighborhood, even though there are not sidewalks everywhere like many people or many communities. People here love walking in the street. They love walking in the grass. And, you know, this community is just like it was planned by John Nolan and also when it was named a historic landmark. As a council, you all are called to be stewards of this great neighborhood and landmark. A steward is someone or group responsible for managing, caring for, ensuring it is maintained and preserved for the future. Mariemont is not a place for a group or any individuals to attempt to leave their mark or create their own legacy. We have spoken to many in leadership and individuals that really do not want all this to be happening to the parks, to the green space, and even many that we speak to in leadership are reluctant to speak out, and you know that they are not saying anything, but they don't want it. But now I feel like it's time to call on the council to stand up and speak out and against what I'm calling the concreting of Mariemont, and to make sure that the council's legacy is not the concrete council. To be stewards of something, but the council we ask you to be stewards of something that's very precious to all of us, and it's been entrusted to each one of you. So.
Can I ask, I know you all were here before and you
Sure.
talked in, you know, in general terms about the plans. Is there any aspect of the plan that you do like?
Well, I mean, I think that we all know that things are moving ahead. You know, I hate to see zigzag, sidewalks all through Dale Park. I hate to see the park across the street from us to get masses of concrete in it, where, maybe we add enough for 5 more cars, but we take up a huge block of concrete to have concrete sidewalks around the park, where now it's just, walkways that people create and kind of go their own. And it's been that way for 28 years that we've been there, and for a long time before that. I'm not sure that what anybody really wants to see is a huge baseball complex, across the street. But something where everybody can enjoy it. Baseball, soccer, and people that just want to fly a kite or take their dog.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you all.
This time. I'm Lila Wells. I live at 3700 Pleasant Street. And since the last time I addressed you all in August of this year, I researched more about the historic designation for Mariemont. And there's, on the Mariemont National Historic Landmark nomination form, which I have sent all of y'all letters about this and reference this as well. But there's several places that mention Dogwood Park, obviously. But a significant thing is that there's an appendix at the end that talks about everything in the town and whether it's contributory or not. And so Dogwood Park specifically is contributory towards our designation for National Historic Landmark. It's also significant to say that John Nolan insisted that as far as possible, the good natural features of the site must be preserved. Dogwood Park remains a heavily wooded landscape, largely untouched since Mary Emery acquired the land. And this is part of why we were given this designation, because we were praised for our integrity in maintaining John Nolan's vision or his original design for the parks. And he also, there's another quote in the, and I have reference pages for this, but it also quotes that he said there's no thinning or transplanting was done in the wooded national park areas. Today, Dogwood Park and the Beech Grove are left untouched and not pruned. And then to carry on to talking about the National Historic Landmark, on Mariemont.org, it talks about that Dogwood Park is included, all the parks are included in the historic district. And then it discusses permitting. And it says, before any exterior changes can be made to a property in the historic district, the plans must be approved by the Architectural Review Board. So I've yet to see that has been done, that there's the Architectural Review Board, as far as I know, has not been consulted in this at all. And they have not been, it hasn't gone through those channels of getting a permit. I also have some more names that I collected on the petition. So that was the biggest point, is about the historic landmark. We've already touched on the other issues about just concreting our green space. Once it's concreted, you can't take it back. It's done. I think if it was solving a problem, for example, the parking lot, having it in and out, that's solving an issue. We're going to have a drop-off zone. I mean, I think that it's hard to argue about that, you know, but it is going to cause more concrete. There's also all the other alternatives to concrete. So, you know, we can do other things to make it ADA accessible that don't require concrete, which could compromise the trees and just take our green space.
Right.
So I really wish you could reconsider this portion of the project to take out the concrete. I'm afraid it's gonna set a precedence for more concrete other places. But, you know, John Nolan had these pocket parks all over, which is unique to Mariemont. Little bitty triangles of green space. I mean, we just gotta cling to those and let's, you know, keep this integrity intended for our village, so.
Let me address for 1 second the issue that you raised about the ARB. Our code is written in such a way that you're right. I mean, any alteration or improvement or something that's going to go on to an historic property within the historic district, so on and so forth. The key word there or phrase is structure. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, depending on your viewpoint, I guess, a pathway that we're planning here to put on and the other improvements, which are essentially sidewalks, you know, kind of a thing. Sidewalks and fencing and, you know, other improvements of that nature to the park area are not necessarily considered, you know, a structure. So that is why, I mean, when we put the Murray Path in as an example, you know, that was through a green space, you know, in, you know, what would be considered the historic district. That also did not go before the ARB because it was not considered to be a structure. Now, you can say that we're, you know, I don't know, parsing words here somewhat, you know, on an issue like this, but that is essentially how the code reads regarding that. But if we were to touch an historic structure in some way, then yes, this would have to go to the ARB for consideration.
Well, I think
Well,
there's
I-
a little bit of conflict,
I know,
because
when
there's
I-
what you're quoting and what she's reading. So,
it's two
you know, I guess how do you, what takes precedence there?
Because
you know?
it's clearly states that the exterior of any historic area, I mean, it's not a vertical structure, it's a hardscape, and it's got an installation. I mean, it's got, you can't just slap it down, you know, and there's a process to it.
Right.
That requires planning. So it's intending to alter how the aesthetic of our park. It's supposed to be kept, according to John Nolan, his intention was to keep it essentially untouched and unlandscaped. So to have, you can walk right onto green space. There's not, I mean, the renderings are lovely. That's not an argument. It's going to be pretty, but that's kind of the point. It's not supposed to be groomed and landscaped looking and having, you know, the path with all the nice little plantings around it and everything. It's supposed to have a more natural, and so to me, so that it is I guess, an interpretation. It seems to me like it's kind of cut and dry, but that I'm interpreting that as an alteration to a historic landmark.
Well, I,
So-
Excuse me just a second, when you look at the code, and it's really something Ed could take a look at more closely, but there's other words in there that, so when you need a certificate of appropriateness from ARB, it's for an alteration. So also in the code is the definition of an alteration, and that's also where you get into the definition of structures and so forth. So, and I think that's how, and so it's more than the sentence that you read. When you look at what
Right.
requires a certificate of appropriateness, it gets into alterations require, and then what the definition of alteration and so forth. So there's more than what you read to look at. And I'm not saying one thing
Right.
is right or wrong, but you need to look at it.
Everybody can see that.
The code is
Yeah,
public.
yeah, it's on the website.
the code
But
is
Yeah.
public,
We could
yeah.
pull it out.
Yeah.
I do think there's a degree of precedence too, unfortunately, in that the interpretation that we've been working off of, you know, basically gives more strength or credence to the word structure, you know, kind of a thing. But I will agree, obviously, from what you just read there, yeah, it does seem as though there possibly could be some different interpretation here. But Matt is making a point. There's other language in the code that somewhat defines a structure, you know, as
Right.
being something that or something that is up out of the ground or is going to come up out of the ground, you know,
It
kind of a
does
thing.
go into more detail.
Mayor,
Yeah.
is that precedent something that we just laid concrete and sidewalks in without one ARB, so that becomes the precedent?
Not in any parks or historic areas.
Well,
I mean, to my
I'm just saying
knowledge.
I'm just saying over the years, the precedent has been established because almost always anything that goes before the ARB regards a structure, you know, as defined as something that's coming up out of the ground, kind of a thing. But, you there does seem to be, like, I'm acknowledging, there could be wiggle room here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I feel like with what Greg had talked about being stewards of our village, that it just seems like it would behoove you to do that to cover all of your, you know, cover yourself. Because, I don't know, I mean, if some of these groups that are financing this get wind that they're altering a historic landmark, I don't know. I mean, are they gonna, I don't know if that I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to, without having something proof
Yeah,
that it's been okay.
I think that that's something that Ed would look at. I wouldn't characterize it at this point, the way the code reads, as an alteration to a National Historic Landmark, but I think that's more of a question for Ed to look at.
And I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a park is, you're not gonna put a big house in the middle of it. So, I mean, you're not gonna have
Sure.
those kind of traditional, you're not gonna put an addition on, you know, so it's not already a house. But it is in the historic district, so it's listed as something that you aren't to be altering.
Yes.
So I just think it just seems like something you might wanna, you
Well,
wanna
as-
cover so
as I
that
said,
it's.
Ed
Well,
is-
I think it's worth
Yeah.
looking
He's
at, and I
willing
also
to
think it's
review.
worth reconsidering, because we're, you know, all the time, you know, in the rules and law, we're looking at code. We've got a report tonight where we're trying to, you know, there's some code that's, I don't want to say sloppy, that's not really the right word I want.
Might be ambiguous.
Ambiguous, thank you. Written, and, you know, you know, we've been working on various aspects of that with Rod to try to clarify
Yeah.
or modernize or make fair, depending on, you know, what the circumstances are. My other question is, I know you've been doing a lot of work, and you said you had more signatures, so how many total people do you have who, in your opinion, are, at least want a second look or a public meeting or
Well,
conversation about this?
I mean, I spent, in just a short amount of time, like a couple days, I got like 115 or 20 maybe. I have 10 more here that I got just not, you know, not even doing a whole lot. I mean, my son's gone to college and he's home for fall break right now, so the weekend I really didn't want to spend beating the pavement, but, you know, I've talked to a lot of people who were gonna be here tonight, wanted to be here, but their kids, you know, they're on like college visits and stuff,
Because
cause it's
it's
fall
Columbus
break for
Day.
Mariemont as well. You know, they're out of town with their kids and stuff, so there were a lot of people who want, I mean, I have a bunch of text chains that have, you know, 10, 12 people on each of them, so, but anyway, you know, I haven't been beating the pavement down like I did it initially, but I feel,
Well,
but I could easily get a lot more.
I know, I was just curious because you said you had additional ones, so I
Yeah, yeah,
wasn't, I know you, and everybody's spread thin, life happens.
right.
Well, let me ask you this, of the signatures that you have there, I mean, was the proposition put that basically they're opposed to the plan, or they feel like they haven't been given a good review of the plan? They would like to have a second look at the plan? I mean, what is, essentially, what are they saying?
Well,
Or they just don't like any of
I approached
it?
it as, I couldn't tackle the whole thing, you know. The petition is specific to the concrete path. And so, most everyone, and I know Randy's done a great job having it posted on, you know, like, available on the website, but people don't pull that up. I mean, it's like, most of the people didn't know anything about it, you know, which is kind of shocking, but then explaining more about what the plan included, and they're like, concrete. But that's an overwhelming opinion, is concrete. And I like Greg said about the setting a precedence, like then, you know, in a year, 3 parks have been altered. If all this happens, you know. So, that, you know, I've lived here for 28 years and we couldn't get that fence put into the tot lot forever, you know, and it just seems like now it's kind of like once things start happening.
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep progress from happening, but, you know, there are things that we should, I think, slow down on.
Well, let me ask you this then. So if there were another public meeting, I mean, to basically re-review the plan, I mean, then would that assuage the, sort of the difficulties with the plan? I mean, would it lead to better understanding?
Well, I mean,
or acceptance of?
In a perfect scenario, all the people that are opposed to it or were for it would show up and they'd voice their opinion. We'd have 100% participation, and then we'd know, you know. But I kind of think it's not up to, like, it's a historic landmark. So I feel like, you know, you show a pretty picture of a rendering. Who's going to say, oh, don't do that? You know, because it's.
Right.
But if people understand about it being, it should be in a natural. It should be a natural type of environment and
Right.
not, you know, pruned and all that.
Lila, I've got one question, and usually we kind of try to hold these to 3 minutes.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
And we do have to move on, but I appreciate all the comments and the discussion. But I do have one question, so
Yes.
to add to it. And that is, from people that you've talked to, and you and Greg yourselves, how much difference would it make to you if the path were a compacted gravel path versus an ADA accessible compacted gravel path versus concrete? Would that make any difference? Would that make a little difference? Would that make a lot of difference?
I think most people would prefer having grass.
Yep, that
Yeah.
wasn't, but that
The
wasn't my
grass-
question.
I think it definitely, the alternative material would be much better because it would help with saving trees, you know, because you're going to be able to have runoff, or, you know, it's not going to be concrete. So I would prefer grass, but especially back from the parking lot to that back field, having an alternative path there that's not concrete would be, I would much rather have that. I know Steve Pipkin had said that about right there being on the edge and how concrete's really going to impact the trees that are in that ravine there because the roots grow up. And he was really concerned about those. So an alternative would be great there. And I know the tree board had recommended other places all around the whole area where they would prefer it not be concrete to preserve the tree roots. So.
I just want to put one other additional comment in there, because my recollection of the public meeting last fall is that the people there were voiced concern about, the one where I guess it's choice one was there, were voicing concern about the concrete. And what I heard going on is like, well, we could look at that without the concrete. And then I didn't hear anything else, and I got a communication from you in April that showed the latest rendering, and it showed the necklace, and I just asked you, I said, I thought this was being reconsidered, and I believe your response to me was it is. So I guess I'm not sure what broke down in that process, if something broke down in that process, if there's something we could have done better. But, you know, my concern is that you're heard, and, you know, we try to come up with the best solution for the parks and our residents.
Marcy, I think that's an important part, because we left that meeting thinking there was gonna be revisions, or we're gonna have another chance to voice our opinion. And the next thing we heard is it's passed. And, you know, and being on the street, I would have thought we'd had a little bit more engagement. But now it's passed, and we're like, you know, just trying to catch up to maybe slow things down a little bit. And the last time we were here, we talked about alternatives, and we still haven't seen anything. And I think the biggest thing is, I guess, sometimes I just step back and say, what is the purpose of this, to this park? I mean, is it the purpose just to have better baseball facilities? Is the purpose to have a running track around the, you know, facilities? Is the purpose just to add 5 more parking spots for those 5 lucky people? I mean, what's the purpose that we're changing this historic landmark?
I'm going to I'll let other
All right,
people.
thanks.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep this super brief.
Can you go to?
Would you come up, please, and state your name? Don't poke yourself.
Welcome to my world.
There you go.
Beth Andrews. I live on Indian View. I have lived here since 2001. I want to second everything that they have said. I think this is a historical village the charm is part of what brought me here, what has helped me raise my own 2 children and 3 stepsons. I have a real problem with altering the natural beauty and the historic aesthetic and the plan. This is a planned community. I mean, I think if you look in, you ask architects and developers, they will cite that this is one of the very few in the United States. And it has stayed this way. And it's why I love it here. I feel like sometimes I understand this was a grant and it was, well written and we were given this money, but at the same time, are we spending money because we have it? And I don't think altering something that is so integral to our village and what makes it so great is worth it. And I'm not here to stop progress. I mean, I'm not one of those people. I think we need to pump the brakes here. And I don't feel like the people really who are maybe not so much opposed, but would like to have a second view on this are really being heard. I feel like it's being shoved down our throat. It's being done. If I wanted a park like what I can find in Mason, Westchester, Montgomery, I would have lived there. I love that my kids are having the kind of childhood that I had. And part of that is what this village looks like and the ability to explore and be in nature. I appreciate the option of maybe a gravel path. I think that's a way better alternative. I have a lot of other problems with the concrete. I'm not going to keep everybody here. I have to get my hair cut. So I appreciate everybody here. I love this village. Can we please reconsider this? This is one of the very few special places around here. And I really want it to stay that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Terry Donovan, Pleasant Street. And first thing I'd like to do is thank all of you for Randy. I'm going to say some things about the park, and I know you worked really hard on it and raised grants, et cetera, so it's about that. It's not a personal thing. I hope we don't put in what someone just referred to here. I thought I heard him say necklace. First time I've ever heard it that way, and I'm sorry to hear it. It's a natural park. I'd really appreciate it if we could leave it as natural as possible. Your question earlier about is there anything I like or anyone likes about the plan? I was excited when I first heard about the plan to do something with Dogwood Park. The batting cage or the fences around the ball fields are terrible. They're in many instances dangerous. So it's great to see that it's going to be brought back up to speed and improved. So I thought it was take what we have and improve it, just make it better. Instead of altering it to the extent that we're talking about here. Lila made a great point at the first meeting, but it was like the last thing said as people were starting to get up and go out. And she said, if you look up, there's a sidewalk right across the street from the park that goes from the parking lot to the tot lot. And that was one of the reasons we were told it's important to have the necklace, was to get people from the new parking position down to the tot lot. So that's an idea, is to improve the sidewalk that already exists, because it could use some improvement in and of itself. And you don't have to put additional concrete, at least along that stretch of Pleasant Street. The piece of sidewalk that we have that goes from the tot lot up to the bell tower, that's great, that's beautiful. The restrooms that were put in were fantastic. And that's another section that's fine, and I'm not suggesting anything about that. I don't think we need a section of cement from the parking lot to the back ball field. We as families and community members have been walking that way the entire time we've all been here. So I've never heard anybody say, we need a sidewalk for that. And then the other opening point that they made about this is a walking village, there are plenty of places to walk here. So we don't need this necklace necessarily as an additional piece if it's going to alter this treasure of the village as it's being suggested it's going to be altered. So with all that said, I hope that you do reconsider at least that element of it. Do know that I appreciate a lot of what you're doing in terms of trying to improve that park and update that park. But if you could please consider the input, or the work that Lyle and others have been doing. So, thank you.
Well, I think the bathrooms are a great example of how a community can make a compromise, because I don't know if that was before I lived in Mariemont proper, but I know there was a big controversy about having bathrooms in the park and where they would be. And they came up with an amazing solution. You know, something that didn't alter the park aesthetically, but still supplied the need. And, you know, that's one of the reasons the Taste of Mariemont is there now, because it has that facility and it has the tot lot. And so I think that's where community dialogue and engagement is important.
Hi.
I'm Shelley Miller-Reed. I've been a resident since 2001. I'm also on the Building and Planning Commission. And the one thing I always go back to when I'm trying to make a decision is I think about what Mary Emery would do. And she was way ahead of her time, was very progressive in her thoughts. So I don't think she's against change, but I also know how much she cared about our community. Green space was one of her priorities. So were the trees. From what I've heard, a lot of the trees could die. I don't know if there's been a horticultural specialist analyze that.
No.
Okay.
We did use ODNR guidance for the.
I heard the tree commission is against it, but doesn't want to step up and say it, which, whatever. I guess I come back to too is who benefits and why is this being rushed through when I really don't think the residents understand it. You represent us, and I think it's your job to make sure that I'll go out there door to door. Because when Lila came to my house, everyone I've talked to is against it. That I've talked to, that understand what it.
Any kind of pathway?
Well, I
in the
don't think
park?
they've ever heard the version of something else.
Okay.
I just don't think the residents are aware. I think with the whole 100-year thing, there was so much out there, I stopped looking at it. It was just too much. And so I just feel like until you really know what the residents think, I don't think you should make a decision. I just feel like that's your job, is to represent us and what we want and not, and I guess again, who does this benefit? Who's this for?
Do you
If the
think
residents don't want it,
Do you think it benefits people in wheelchairs?
I do, but I don't
So
think
that
that's
might
a
be
reason to do it.
Fair enough, but that's.
Right,
that-
that's the one, I agree. But then I'm like, really, is it gonna be that easy for them to get to it? I don't know. I see the girl that lives on Miami on her wheelchair all around our roads. She doesn't stop her. I think that's the example of, we don't need it. Well, everybody said, we walk on our streets, we walk on the grass. I don't know. I would just like to hear the conversation of what the positive is other than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thanks, Shelley.
Anyone else? Yes, sir?
I just want to talk very quickly. Just want to say I echo a lot of the comments about keeping things as they are and being stewards of it moving forward. I don't want to belabor that point. Sorry.
Sir,
Tim
could you say your
Bingaman.
name- State your name, please.
Yeah, Tim Bingaman,
Tim.
Worcester Pike and Pleasant. So I don't want to belabor that, but I think they're great points. The one thing that I heard that I do think is that we, although it may not state that we have to go to the Architectural Review Board, I'm not sure why we wouldn't. When I moved here, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, something that made me laugh, admittedly, was when I overheard somebody say, the most important thing in Mariemont is the tree canopy. And I was thinking like, wow, like I've really stepped into something here, right? What I love about Mariemont is it gives me an amazing feel. My brother moved to New York and he said, I'm moving to Queens. And I said, you're moving to Queens? And he said, yeah, I'm moving to a place called Forest Hills Gardens. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but it's an amazing,
It's cool.
amazing place that reminds me of here. The architect said, you know, there's sweeping streets, there's a surprise around every corner. The original U.S. Tennis Center with grass courts is still there. Totally amazing place. So when we were looking for a house, we were like, oh my God, like this is practically it. I felt like the village really stood up for keeping the South 80. And to be honest, I kind of got shushed in it by neighbors who wanted to keep it. I never go to the South 80, but I deal with traffic on Worcester Pike all the time, and I'm like, I'm not sure why we want all this traffic. It doesn't make sense to me. But I was convinced that this is our land and we need to keep it as it is. And so that's where I would go to. And I would say, even if we don't feel like we're legally bound to have the Architectural Review Board look at it, why wouldn't we? You know, that's what we're about. We want it to be beautiful. We want our housing prices to continue to be the best. You know, this to be the place where people want to move, a place that we're proud of. One thing that people have not discussed is the kissing statue area, which I spent a semester and a half in architectural school, so I'm just going to brag about that for a second. But I'm a lover of the arts, and the kissing statue, and a lot of Mariemont reminds me, you get a little European feel, which is what I think Mary Emery liked about it and helped to start up. I think the deterioration of the kissing statues reminds me of an old European city. I think the way that, I mean, candidly, I think it looks like a mausoleum with that white structure. I can't, you know, I don't want to be rude to people who've worked on it, but that needs some serious work. That would not pass the Architectural Review Board if that was on a house. That's, I think that's very clear. So I would just say, you know, from what other people have said, err on the side of not moving too quickly. Use the power that we have with the residents and the Architectural Review Board to not put up something that we might regret later. So anyway, thanks for everybody's time and work on it. But
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? No? No? Are you moving to get up? Don't be shy.
Thanks, Bonaparte. I'm Mary Ann Newman. I'm at 6609 Mariemont Avenue. And I think I just echo what everybody says. And I just don't like the concrete path. I like the green, natural look of it. And I just want to just support everybody.
No, thank you. Thank you. All right. No one else?
I appreciate your succinctness.
Well, there's people here that are supporting, or against the path, that if they could just stand up, maybe, if they want to say that they support, they oppose the path and would like for, they don't necessarily feel comfortable speaking, so.
All right. I think what I'm seeing here and hearing here clearly is that at bare minimum, you all would like to have sort of a second bite at the apple. And by that, I mean another public meeting to more thoroughly review so that everyone clearly understands the project as planned and so on and so forth, have an opportunity, again, to voice your opinions, and those who are in favor of doing it, clearly they can come too. Obviously, it's open to the public. I mean, is that what I'm hearing here, by and large? Shelley?
Could we not have you go around and tell us why you want it, or I'm just...
Well, I think that, I don't want to do that at this meeting here tonight, but that would be something that we would do at another public meeting, you know, where we would have blow-ups of the...
Not on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's not,
Sorry, we have one more.
not on the agenda. Not on the
Okay.
agenda.
My name's Jennifer Dagerberg. I live at 3855 Oak Street in the Historic District. I've lived here for 35 years. Actually, believe it or not, yeah, 35 years yesterday. And I don't think we're at the point where we need another meeting. We've had meetings. You guys, I will say, you've been wonderful in communicating as you can to the village what the plans have been. I don't think that everyone's busy. I don't know if everyone is signed up to get the emails and know when the meetings are. I don't think it's that we have not been educated on what the plan is. I think we're opposed to the plan. And I think that
Do you mean every aspect of the plan? Like altering the, like, I mean, like Lila is, like, even though she doesn't favor more concrete, but she sees the need as a safety improvement to have a better drop-off zone for the kids? I mean,
Well, no,
my
that's
daughter
a-
was
no.
almost killed there.
No, that's a good question, because I've been to all the meetings.
Okay.
And I know when we saw the big plan in the beginning, there was a marquee, and we were, which marquee do you like the best? And we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, the tot lot's gonna be bigger, there's gonna be a cement walkway around, I mean, and then we had another meeting, which was a little bit pared down from that. But I don't think that the views that we have expressed as residents have actually been addressed. I believe that Lila did a lot of work in looking up all of the specifics of being a historical village. And also, it's not a very big space. And I think the biggest question that I'm listening or hearing here is, why do we even need this walkway? I think that the parking issues, to your point, Marcy, needed to be addressed. That's a little awkward, especially with the addition of the stop signs, and I think that where I wish we weren't adding more cement from a parking or pavement, from a parking standpoint, I can see where the need is there. I think that what we're really addressing is, why take away more green space if you really don't have to, and jeopardize the tree canopy, to put is it like 1/3 of a mile, the walkway? I mean, for
Thereabouts.
what? I mean, I agree from an ADA standpoint to have something that is accessible, maybe a different type of surface. I think that is important, I understand that. I think that to have another meeting and just it's like we're just pouring salt in the wounds and just keep going and going. I think that we're expressing our views as to why we do not want to proceed, and we're putting it in your hands as our elected officials.
But do not want to proceed with that particular aspect. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
The walkway?
Yeah.
No, we do not.
Okay.
I feel the consensus here is we do not want a cement walkway.
I think I do think we represent the community.
Well,
It's not just us, and I also don't understand why you can't give us what you think.
Well, let me answer that. In fairness to you, you say we don't need another meeting. I say that probably we do, because Shelley raises a good point there. She would like us tonight here to go around the room basically and give, reasons, why we want this. Well, in fairness, I mean, to answer that appropriately, I mean, I can't spring that on Mr. York right here and now. He's not really prepared to answer that tonight, I don't think. And, well,
So,
We
if I
have
may,
been,
the plan it wasn't driven by me. What I did was I found the money to do what, principally driven by the preschool parents group and the Mariemont Recreation Association, as well as Mariemont Preservation Foundation. And it was really those groups that came up with this plan. This is what they wanted. They wanted to have access back to that field. They wanted the loop trail. The loop trail resonated with a lot of people. A lot of this is, I'm sorry, I coached my kids 30 years ago, and those dugouts and backstops should have been condemned back then. The parking lot is not up to code. It's dangerous. You can't get in and out of it. The tot lot, the preschool parents group was a big part of that. There's 9 additional pieces of equipment that are going into the tot lot. So it was really driven by those two groups, the whole plan and what they wanted. So this was packaged together as a grant. I've never done this before. I don't know what happens. I sincerely don't know what happens if we take this out of the plan. Right now, we have $1.6 million, roughly, for this park. Not a dime of village money. $1.6 million from outside sources. When I calculated it, that number would go back down to about $200,000 if we took this out. But again, I don't know what happens if I go back to Congressman Landsman, or back to Cedric Denson, or to the Land and Water Conservation, because I got an internal announcement that went through Congress. The first thing they said was it's got a 0.4 mile loop trail. It's actually, if you include Pleasant, it's 0.4 miles. So I don't know what happens. This body voted unanimously every step of the way. Every grant I wrote for, they unanimously agreed to do it. Every resolution to go out for bid to do all this, this body unanimously voted to do this. At some point, if we're not going to do this, this body's gonna have to make the decision not to do this. If this body makes that, and I'm okay with it, because trust me, I don't wanna do it if you guys don't want it either. But I will tell you, this group that's been involved, that I've had interaction with, are very excited about this. I was at, not this past year, but the year before at the Taste of Mariemont, and I was at the Arts and, Kiwanis Arts and Crafts Fair, and I didn't get one negative comment from anybody. They all loved the entire plan. And you're right, it is pretty, it is sexy, it does look good. So at some point, this body will have to decide, do we kill it or not? And if we kill it, then I think we'll lose. And if we do, we lose a lot of funding, we lose a lot of funding. I saw this as our best excuse to do something meaningful and significant for the village. We had our 100th anniversary, and I will tell you, based upon our results, you know, we're over $3 million for all the projects. It's resonated, you know, people love helping Mariemont, and having a plan gets that done. If we don't want to do it, and if this body decides we don't want to do it, we'll just have to say, we don't need the money, we've invested quite a bit in plans, we can't get that back. I calculated we'd have about $200,000 left that we could do something. For
So-
$200,000, we can't do much.
So the only thing,
I was
So-
just gonna say, I would like to say that don't do something for the money. Don't make it about the money.
But it wasn't about the money from the beginning, it was about what their vision was for that park.
But it sounds like it may be now, that we're gonna push ahead because we lose this money. But it's going to alter our community. The community, that is like a blue ash type park going in. It's gonna alter the community. I would rather internally raise enough money to rebuild the fields and stuff and just put that together. And not say, hey, we've got to have a blue ash style park going in. I want you all to make a decision based on what's the best thing for residents, for Mariemont, and for the next 100 years of Mariemont. It's been pretty great for this 100. I think it'll be pretty good for the next 100 too.
And that's why I think, go ahead, Bob.
First of all, I was not on council when the SORTA grant was approved, but I remember it in the back of my mind. That project was never really vetted when it was approved by council. And I think we've learned a lesson that before we approve any grants, we really want to have the project fully vetted. And we're now just starting to get in the plans for part of that. And I want to go to I know most of you are focused on the necklace path. I'm the chair of the Public Works Department, and the walkway through Dale Park is in that committee. And in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna have a meeting, decide whether to go out to bid or not on that. Now, at that point, if the committee says we shouldn't go out to bid on that, that part of the project is dead. Now, Randy's gonna tell us the ramifications, and probably Matt as well, some ramifications of making that decision, and I think we need to listen to that. It's like pluses and minuses. But the point is that sidewalk, that part of the sidewalk is not a done deal. Now, and I'll ask the question on the necklace path, for lack of a better word. The bids aren't in yet. If we accept the bids, but without the path in it, that can be done, is that correct?
Yes, it could be
We
done.
could pull it out of the,
I think we,
Nothing's
Let's-
gone out to bid yet, so
No.
there's no prices coming back,
No.
so it's still, you gotta tell me what you wanna go out to bid with.
but even if it came back with that in it, we could strip it out before we bid it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying there are options here.
There are options here, and that is to my point about the reason for having another meeting.
I agree with the mayor.
Let's air out those options, and if we are gonna strip out a certain aspect, no, I don't think, well, speaking for me, nobody wants to kill the entire plan here.
No.
There are certain aspects of this plan that are they're needed and they're definitely worthwhile. But if we wanna slightly modify that, that's what I'm talking about, the point of having another meeting, so that we can because Randy has a point. Randy makes a good point here. Y'all in here tonight, obviously, we pretty much know the consensus of the room, but there are other residents who maybe see this differently, and they also have to have an equal voice in this as well. But maybe there is a compromise out there, but in order to get there, I say, another meeting. That's what I'm saying. Shelley?
Thing to offer, does everyone know that MPPG is not just Mariemont people? It's open to anybody in the city?
Well, I know that. I don't know
No,
whether.
it's everyone.
Yeah.
Anyone can join. They don't have to live in Mariemont. I don't necessarily think that's who we should listen to. Half their members are from all over the place. Yeah, sure, they love a sidewalk, but they're not invested in our community. They opened it up a few years ago to everyone.
No, you're right.
Just so you're aware.
Yeah.
Well, which goes back to the review board, because is it up to us who don't, someone who's lived here for 2 years, they don't understand what the ramifications of doing an installation like that.
Right.
How it's altering the aesthetic of the natural park, so.
And to Shelley's point, let's also say that, now Mariemont's home to 5 more communities is their home field in baseball. So we added a lot more games. 6 more communities. So, again, it shouldn't be something about, basically providing them parking, providing this or that. I'm not sure how we add all these games to our community.
Well, you're right about that, but I do think, guys, come on. We do want to be an open community. We do want to share our facilities, especially when it comes to kids' baseball games.
Yeah, but who made that decision?
Well,
First I heard about it was from a resident. I'm on council, I had no idea that that was even going on.
That's a good point.
Now, I'm not on the Parks and Rec Committee, so I don't know but I don't remember hearing a committee report about it.
Sure. Mrs. Donovan?
So, I guess, but my concern about that is process.
Just one thing to point out when you talk about what you are for and what you're not for. Lila's petition, which you have seen or have a
Yes.
copy of, was specific to the walkway. It's not about the rest of the plan.
Okay, well, that's a very good point. Okay. I was trying to ask that.
Right, but so
Yeah.
you have a copy of her petition and all the signatures?
Yes.
So that's what we signed was about the walkway.
Okay, yeah. All right, very good.
With all the input tonight and what different people feel is the pulse of the community and from people that you've talked to, and to Randy's point that it's time we make a decision as a council. We're gonna have to decide, to go forward, and something is gonna go out to bid, and I think everybody wants new backstops, and they wanna see the fields properly graded and proper drainage. They wanna see the top lot improved and all these things. So the real question has to do with the sidewalk. And it seems to me that we have, you can always come up with hybrids of different options, but we have a few different options. The council's gonna have to say, what do you wanna do? One option is to build a concrete path the way that it's on the drawing, and we have a 5-foot wide. We went, there was a time when some people thought it should be 6, so you have more room to walk back and forth, but we're at 5. So we have the 5-foot, I'll call it the necklace path that goes around. We leave it, that's an option. Another option would be take that path, and why would we be building it? People ask why. It's not something that was necessarily my vision or anything, but the way that it's been described to me, and Randy, correct me if this is inaccurate, as a walking path, it provides just another avenue for people who, whether it's seniors, you end up with a level walking path that goes around in a safe manner. You don't have to be in the street. It's ADA accessible for those who have limitations. It provides walking for people to get kids and parents and strollers and so forth to get from point A to point B without going and cutting across the field and stuff. So that's what I think the purpose is. And walking path, yes, it might even attract people from outside the community. It's like, oh, I just love the walking path at Mariemont. 3/4 of it is goes along the woods. It's beautiful. So that's what I think was the vision for it, at least as I understand it, good or bad. But so we would have the option, leave it, but turn it into something, a different material, more natural. And when we talk about crushed stone, that's higher maintenance for Ben and his guys, but it's not but it's also something that's being used by great parks and being used by other park systems, Columbus, St. Louis. They're using this type of material for paths like that, so that's option 2. And then option 3, to me at least, would be, well, let's forget about going around the big loop, but let's build the sidewalk along Pleasant Street that gets you access from the parking lot to the tot lot or to the main entrance, you know, back and forth in that area. That would be an option. Build that, but leave the rest alone. And then you can come up with hybrids of those things, but would that be reasonable that we put those options before the community and before council one more time and select one of those? Does that make sense? Yes.
Can one of the options be that they don't do it?
And the fourth option is, obviously, and you're right, thank you, is do nothing, leave it.
Not the whole thing,
The
just, I
concrete.
do feel like the trees are just such a concern in that specific area. All those trees are right there, and is that gonna cause them to die?
Along Pleasant Street? Well, to Randy's point, and I'm not an arborist, so I can't answer that, and I don't know what the odds are, but they did look at the Department of Natural Resources guidelines for how to minimize that, and I believe that the odds for those trees surviving, from what I understand, not an expert, is that they would have a very high success rate because of the grading that we're using. We're not actually going
Yeah,
under.
it's an
we're not-
ODNR guidance on grazing it
Yeah.
and getting a berm around it.
So I think that we're
So the
following best
sidewalk will be
practice.
raised?
Pardon?
So the sidewalk's gonna be raised?
Well, the
The
grading
grading
of the
will go
park
up.
is gonna be such that that ends up slightly higher than what it is, and that sidewalk is kind of at the highest point, and then you slope very gradually. You don't even see it, it looks level, but that sidewalk would actually, we're not digging into the root structures of the plants.
The other option
Yeah.
would be cross the path, or cross this crosswalk, go down the sidewalk and another crosswalk to get from the parking lot to the top lot. There's already a sidewalk there with 2 crosswalks. And they're ADA approved with
Right.
all the.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that would be that would
Sandy, you're
basically
right,
be
I
the-
would kind of fit that into the do
Yeah,
nothing,
right,
but
that's
do nothing
another-
option.
But that's a
crosswalk.
good option,
Yeah,
though.
right.
I'd like
So-
to recommend that we have a meeting, and I'm not sure what kind of a meeting it should be, whether it should be a council meeting or a committee meeting, but in any case, it'd be a public meeting where the focus is on the path/sidewalk.
Well, to Matt's point, and this is kind of the point that I was trying to make, I mean,
I agree with Matt.
there may be a compromise in here, but in order to get to the compromise, I mean, we're not gonna decide it tonight.
Right.
We're gonna have to have another public meeting, and where you all and others can come and air out the various,
Concerns.
our options, and which one do you like or don't like. Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
I'd like to ask Chris a question, if I could. As far as the timeline for going out to bid, how does this, if we go have another meeting and it takes a little longer to go to bid, are we at risk of anything at all, or?
Not for Elwood Park.
Okay,
I mean, the ODNR, or the sort of grant is shovel in the ground by February.
okay.
So you guys need to take the time to do what you want to do.
We couldn't let paint dry on it. I mean, if we're gonna do it, we would need to go ahead and get it scheduled and do it and make a
Sure,
decision.
I just wanted to make sure we
We'd have
weren't.
to have a public meeting before the end of the year.
Yeah,
We need to-
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I would say in 2024,
Yeah.
certainly.
Absolutely.
You know I couldn't get through the whole meeting without saying.
Well, could you please stand?
Stand up.
Staring at me like, you going or
Well,
not?
I knew you were gonna come with something.
Dina Wilder, Hammerstone and Pleasant. I just wanted to point something out. From what I understand, based on what Randy was saying, is this was driven primarily by preschool parents and the Recreation Board, and some from, MPF was a big part of just the whole big plan. I'd like just kind of to point out, which is not necessarily obvious, but preschool parents and the Rec Association overlap a great deal when it comes to people. A lot of the people who have an infant or have younger children and they're in MPPG, natural transition We all did it. Every one of us who raised our kids here, you know, we went right to that park. So while it's two large organizations in our community that are fantastic, and I would never, ever, I mean, it was the best thing for us here, just keep in mind that they're basically representing the same
There's
people.
overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
And I think the MPF was basically the executive board, right?
Yes.
It was not the whole.
Yeah, I don't think that was
I don't-
ever
I
put
don't
to
know
a
how
vote of the
much
trustees.
They
you'd
didn't
have
really
to-
share any of it at the meetings that I can recall.
Okay, if we all aired this, I want to move on.
Okay.
I thank you all for coming, and obviously this is very important. I mean, you have very strong opinions. We want to be fair, I want to be just, I want to make sure everybody is heard, and I do think the best way to do that, I know you're going to disagree with me.
No, I
Yeah.
think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I would be interested in trying to find, you know, an agreeable compromise so that not everybody's going to go home happy, but, yeah, that's the
Most-
nature of compromise. Yeah,
That's great.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Pay the bills.
All right, moving on. Motion to pay the.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion to pay the bills. Do we have any question regarding the bills?
There's lots of bills.
No?
You bored me right, I'm sorry.
All right, a motion and a second to pay the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, pay those bills. All right, moving on to the committee reports. Matt, before you get to yours, Mr. York has generously offered to, now Randy, you know you did.
To what?
To take on the task, basically, of flushing out the membership on the Parks Board.
Oh,
Am I-
okay.
am I wrong
Yep,
about
yep,
that?
yep.
All right, I'm going to be placing that into Randy's committee. He will see.
I didn't know if that or something you just made up, so.
Now, give me a minute.
That'll teach you.
I'm putting that into Randy's committee, and
Ooh.
committee, and I
So
appreciate
do
your.
you
That's
agree with
pretty.
what I laid out, to start with those two guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start
I don't
there.
even know what it
And
is.
let me just say, so that we're all
What is-
clear, I mean, Randy will do this, and he will come up with recommendations. I will review them, but I, as mayor, make the final nomination to the council.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sound good? All right. All right, Matt, I think you're up.
Here are,
Susan.
I am?
Oh,
Okay.
oh, no, I'm sorry. Well, we have, we still have Susan's report, which was tabled.
Thank you.
Do we have an update on this? On your
What do you
committee
mean?
report?
I mean, I think there's work that has been done, but I don't know if
Okay,
that.
it hasn't been in advance though, per se, so we're not really ready to read it and discuss it.
Yeah, I can tell you that Rod and I have already talked about implementing some of these changes, and we're looking at the code right now to do just that.
Okay, so then are we ready to read this, or are we getting?
Probably not. I think it should go hand in glove with whatever the changes in the ordinance say.
Okay.
And what I'll do, Susan, is once Rod and I get them done, we'll send them out to all of you. You can review them, have your comments, and if you want changes, we can certainly make them.
Just to clarify though, I mean, just to get this off the table, I don't think this is going to be edited further based upon the ordinances.
True, yeah.
So could we just
So if you wanna
report
go-
it and then introduce the ordinances to just be done?
Yeah, you're probably right. Let's go through this ordinance. Or this committee report, if you all agree on that, approve it, then the laboring or becomes mine and Rod's to get it done what they've suggested, okay?
Hey, I'm all for moving it along, if that's, okay.
Let's do it.
Read it.
Okay.
Who's the best reader?
She is.
Sir, committee.
You go first.
I'm the best reader. All right, Rules and Laws Committee
Hey.
met September 3rd.
She's
No.
the chair, but she's not the best reader. Sorry.
I cede the
on.
floor to Dr.
No,
Lewis,
no,
the
I'm
best
I'm
reader
just, no,
on
I'm just
council.
teasing you. I'm just teasing.
Uh,
We need a little levity at this
September
point.
3rd, 6 to 7:30 PM. In attendance, Mayor Bill Brown, Chief Rick Himes, Councilperson Matt Ayer, Councilperson Dr. Marcy Lewis, Building Administrator Rod Holloway, Resident Matt Painter, Resident Doug Zemke, and Councilperson Susan Brown Knight. The Rules and Law Committee met and discussed village parking and accessory structures. Below are the outcomes of the conversation. Parking. Rear access pads. We recommend that the village further refine rear access pad standards, as we want to ensure that rear access pads maintain the 10-foot clearance standard from the road. RV parking. Relax the rear lot standards to include the rear yard. Trailers. We recommend we update the ordinance to include trailers that are attached to a vehicle so that vehicles with attached trailers cannot be left on the street unattended for longer than 2 hours. Trailers left unattached and trailers attached should not be left overnight on the street. This situation will require permitting. Additionally, we recommend that we update code to require unattached trailers to be in the rear yard. Front parking pads. We recommend keeping the proposed ordinance and enforce our ordinance that dictates the village has no new front parking pads. The village will be trending away from parking pads with street projects that include installing curbs. We encourage residents to restore front parking pads. Driveways. We recommend that driveway standards should remain unchanged. Accessory structures. Accessory structures, we must clarify in code that accessory structures should not be habitable spaces. Additionally, we recommend that we define a minimum separation between habitable spaces. We recommend 10-foot separation between the principal residence and the detached structure. Garage height. We recommend we leave the 15 foot for one garage height and allow up to 18 foot for 2 to 3 car garages. This change is driven by the pitch of the roof and aesthetics. Further, we recommend defining garages as only one-story structures that are permitted to have an attic for storage. We recommend we limit the size of the accessory accessory structures, defining an accessory structure as something up to 50 feet wide. We recommend accessory structures must be in the rear yard. For lots bigger than 50 feet, cap the accessory structure at 864 square feet. Currently, people can put an accessory structure within 3 feet of their property line. However, any structure above 15 feet, it is recommended to be 6 foot away from the property line, and the structures max out at 18 feet tall. Proposed regulation. When the accessory structure exceeds 200 square feet, the architectural board must approve the design. We would need to update the Architectural Review Board's code. Street-to-street lot. We recommend including street-to-street lots and corner lots in the above regulations, subject to current side setback standards and other potential standards the zoning officer will recommend. Respectfully submitted, Susan Brown Knight, Dr. Marcy Lewis, and Matt Ayer.
Do you want to tell?
Okay, you've heard the report.
I have a question.
Bill,
Any,
we need to untable.
we probably do.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Any discussion?
I have a
regarding-
question, yeah.
Please.
Relax the rear lot standards to include the rear yard. Matt, maybe you can help me, but as what I recall, the current standard is it has to be in the yard, like behind the house. So I would think that include the rear driveway.
I remember, let's see.
I mean, that's what I remember is that currently it like had to be hidden behind the house, like in your yard. That's what and then we relaxed it so it could be just back, like
Right, because there was,
on your driveway in the rear of your house, but not necessarily hidden by your house.
Right.
That's how I remember.
That's
So
how
I
I
was just
remember
wondering if
it as
that should
well.
say to include the rear driveway. Because to relax a rear lot standard to include the rear yard, that sentence doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think it should, you're right. That's exactly right. And that's what I remember too. It should just, that word should be changed to driveway.
Okay.
to include the,
The rear driveway.
Oh, the rear driveway, okay.
Okay.
the rear driveway.
And
Well, or just to include the
Yeah,
driveway.
the driveway, like some people have driveways that go behind their house.
That's correct.
So they couldn't leave it out in front of the house. They could pull it all the way up, but still have it on the driveway. Because right now the code wants that to be like in the yard behind the house, completely
Right.
hidden.
Right.
That's what I remember the discussion being. So that, to me, that was an ambiguous
And
statement.
we're going to be seeing, we're going to be seeing the actual code that
Yeah.
comes from Rod and
I'm
going
fine
through
with
that.
that. My memory was that it was too ambiguous.
The
right?
phrasing,
Yeah.
putting all this together and condensing it,
Well,
it's
I know.
hard. Yeah, it's
That's
So
hard.
I'm happy to change it
Yeah.
to driveway and then
Okay.
just make sure it's clear in the
So then
ordinance.
I would make a motion to accept the report with the amendment that under
Well-
RV parking, the final word is changed to driveway.
Yeah, hold on one second, because I've got a question too that
Okay.
might require an amendment. How is it, well,
So well, we'll have to see, yeah. It was very confusing, because an
I
RV
see that for a second?
we can't park an RV in the driveway for very long, right? Is that accurate?
you gotta get permission.
Right, and so the rear driveway, I think what was happening, because there was somebody that parked, in the yard, but you could still see it. And so it was like, but that was kind of the rear yard, but it wasn't the rear yard. So it wasn't about the driveway, it was just about further defining the space that they could park something, because, I think, versus the driveway.
So the issue is more the visibility of the RV than it is.
Yeah, well, the issue was, where does the rear yard end, right? And so, because somebody had it on the side, and it technically was like not the rear yard, and so then, but there was
Well,
nothing to be.
the rear yard technically would go from, the two side lateral borders, all across the back of the back of the lot, that's the rear yard.
And I think somehow it was confusing where the RV was parked. Kind of, it was straddling the definition, and Rod couldn't enforce anything.
Yeah.
And so, but do we want, this is a question, this is not like I don't think a controversial subject, but, because we still don't want people to be able to park their RV in their driveway. Or are you saying that they should be able to park in their rear driveway?
That's how I remember the discussion going, because.
If the driveway is
because the way
behind the
it
house.
is now, they would have to be parked, like, in whatever space is hidden by the house.
So you're
And
thinking.
some people may not even have room to do that, depending on the size of their lot.
Yeah.
So that was my, but this has been, what, a month ago?
I know, it's a lot.
And so,
So-
and we went through a lot of stuff, but I would just argue that that sentence is ambiguous, is written.
Yeah.
Would it be okay if for now, just to pass this, because we are gonna be looking at the zoning regulation? I think this is when we was talking about, different geometries, when you have a driveway, but then the back of the house does this, and then.
It was a very exciting meeting.
Yeah, but just to take care of the technical issue until we actually read the code that Rod's proposing, if we just make it, say for now, relax the rear lot standard per the zoning officer recommendation, and just leave it at that for now, and then we'll review the actual ordinance when it comes.
And what I was gonna say too, Matt, is there's some things in here that I'll need to actually look at the code
Right.
section that we're modifying to make sure that they comport with what I believe the committee wants.
Right.
And that's why I plan on sending everybody notice of, once Rod and I get it done. One thing, I have to laugh here, I get stopped almost every day by a lawyer downtown who lives on Miami Bluff, and he's complaining every day because he's got a neighbor that parks a trailer in her driveway overnight, but it's attached to a vehicle that never gets used. So this thing's not gonna address that particular scenario.
Are you sure? Because we have,
And I would just point that out when I make the change, because it says, I don't put my glass on here. It
Marcy, you
says-
okay with that? Because I don't remember exactly what Rod laid out with.
Well, it does
with
say
that sentence.
trailers left unattached and trailers attached should not be left
Can't build it.
overnight on
Yeah.
the street.
And then unattached trailers need to be in the rear yard. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but
I'll
it doesn't
talk with
say
Rod about
It
that.
doesn't say attached trailers. If you pull an attached
What?
trailer,
Yeah,
do that.
It's hard to cover everything, and that's missing.
Oh, it really is, and then, You know, again, I don't want to keep anybody any longer, but a 50-foot wide
Yeah, I was just about, which I've been trying to get in here for the last, 50
accessory
feet wide,
structure in the
that's-
backyard?
What?
That's a house.
Very few yards in this village are that wide, are they?
There's no way we should allow it up to 50 feet wide.
We had a
50 feet
discussion
tall?
about,
It says wide.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Right.
That's 5 stories.
wider than this wall right
I
here.
know, but we had a discussion about that, and I feel like that there are some garages where that would apply.
I think well.
50 foot,
We-
that's 5 stories.
Yeah, we had a,
Right?
well, it's been too long.
I think the point, here's what I think to move forward. I think we can go ahead and approve the committee report as amended by Matt. Rod and I'll get together, actually revise the code, send it out to everybody, so you'll have it plenty of time before the council meeting. This is nothing that needs to happen next week or the week after. I think you all have pretty full plates. So let me just draft something up, reference the code sections themselves, and then you guys can just take another look at it before we have the council meeting. Does that make sense?
So, then what are we doing with this?
Table.
Just let it be on the table?
I think what we can do, at least get it off Susan's plate, because they've done a good job here in telling us the basics that they want to change. Why don't we go ahead and pass it with the only change being as recommended, word portions of it, as recommended by the building administrator. And then we'll get done what we need to get done, and then we can move it forward that way. Does that make sense?
No, because I think the whole point of a committee meeting is for him to have the input and then the committee to make a recommendation. I mean, why even have a committee meeting? Why not just have you and Rod work to redo it?
I just don't think we're clear on what the right wording is on it. And so we want to just take it off or, now or table this until we talk to Rod. I don't think it makes.
Why don't we
any
do that?
difference.
Why don't we just table it for now?
It is-
Rod and I'll get together.
Does this mean I get to read it all? Sorry, guys. Brought you guys down.
Let's
This
just
way you get to read it again.
I get to read it again?
Marcy.
Attached,
Marcy's turn to
unattached?
read it.
So
How
are we
many-
past, if we table it, are we past making
It's the
comments?
vice
Oh, it's
chair.
tabled.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
we're moving on.
All right.
So
All right.
it's
Hey,
still
listen.
tabled.
Matt,
I did not plan this, and I hope this never happens again, where there were 3 safety committee meetings between 2 council meetings. It's crazy. Should never happen. One of them was because I put too much on a agenda, but anyway, I'm gonna start with the flock camera meeting, because I think there might be somebody here who's interested in that. So that is, safety committee met September 30th. Present were, safety committee members Matthew Ayer and Randy York. Mayor Brown was here, Chief Hines, and from the police department, Lieutenant Pitsley and Sergeant Geraci, fiscal officer Kelly, and the Amberley Police Department Sergeant Tim Schmidt-Gosling, and resident Doug Zemke, who comes to so many meetings. And attending via Zoom were representatives from the Flock Group, led by Eric Smith. Flock presented a PowerPoint presentation describing its technology. 430 plus and growing Ohio communities have implemented Flock. Officers can obtain immediate or real-time info via a secure phone app for not just our community, but for the entire network. Blue Ash, Indian Hill, Columbia Township, Amberley, and Gulf Manor have implemented Flock. Fairfax has a different system that predated Flock, but will likely join the broader network in the near future. Flock's got a couple different kinds of cameras. The Falcon camera, solar powered, provides in one direction of traffic LPR, license plate recognition. The color and the make of each vehicle, distinguishing features like if it has bumper stickers, damage, that kind of thing. It has night vision capability. It does not have facial recognition, does not have speed tracking capability. The system deletes the data after 30 days, but our officers have the ability to save selected data indefinitely for evidence, investigations, even to take to trial eventually in some cases. Okay, a Condor camera, which is also solar powered, provides surveillance, also known as situational awareness of a designated area. It's AI powered, and Condor identifies human presence without recognizing personal characteristics. It's ideally suited for parking lots, pedestrian areas adjacent to streets, etc. Mariemont Police Department, who's been studying this, recommends a network of 5 Flock LPR cameras and 1 Condor at specific key points of ingress, egress to from our village. Condor actually goes in a different location. MPD described its rationale for site selection. I didn't list the site selection on here because I don't know that that's necessarily something that should be public information, where our flock cameras are located, so I intentionally left that out, but Chief could answer questions about that if you did have them. The cost for this, $20,400 for year one, and then after that, $18,000 each year, which works out to $3,000 per camera. Flock leases a community the equipment that performs all installation and maintenance. Now, our sergeant that was here from Amberley, he described the successful implementation of a flock camera network, how they use it in specific investigations, and its value as a tool, and it's used frequently by Amberley Police Department. He reported excellent service from Flock in installation and maintenance. He also described some cases that they solved, even interstate cases that they solved with Flock being the key tool, and how they use it just all the time now. Chief Hines believes the Flock cameras are a highly valuable, proven, cost-effective tool, strongly urges the committee and council to proceed with installation of the recommended network. Mr. York suggested that the Falcon that had been proposed at Worcester Pike and Old Worcester be relocated to the entrance of the industrial park to protect our businesses there. Chief Hines, Lieutenant Pitsley, and Mayor Brown agreed. Mrs. Rankin advised that the funds would need to be authorized in the 2025 MPD budget. Lieutenant Pitsley agreed to request a copy of the Flock PowerPoint presentation for council review, which I sent around to everybody. It was actually the whole Zoom meeting. I hope you had a chance to look at it. After discussion and questions and answers, Mr. York moved that the Safety Committee recommend leasing/installing the MPD recommended Flock network in 2025 for a 2-year contract, pending contract review by our solicitor. On roll call, 2 yeses, no nos, and the meeting was adjourned at 3:05. And then attached to the report was just something I pulled off the Amberley website. It describes their use of the Flock cameras. So endeth my report.
I used to think Stan Baylor was the best reader around. I think you may be now.
Oh, I'll take Stan on any day.
Okay, we've heard the report. Would anybody like me to run the PowerPoint presentation?
Oh,
No? No? All right, any discussion? Chief, you want to add to this? Got something to say?
I think Mr. Ayer covered it. Like I said, it's a great tool. It's going to be beneficial for us investigating crimes. It'll be beneficial for the residents, not only with crimes. If we have somebody that's experiencing, say, dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever that goes missing, or a child goes missing, it's a good tool for that too. So it's a win-win, I think, for everybody involved. And Mr. Ayer, the Smith Gosling officer, it's a lieutenant, so you demoted him, but it's okay. He won't be too mad.
I pulled the info off their website, but however, Chief, you did have the opportunity to review my report.
That's all right.
Pay a little closer attention.
You know, for what it's worth, I'll tell you, I see a lot of these Flock cameras in my criminal defense practice, and they are very, very useful to law enforcement. Yeah. So it's just a question of money. I don't think it's a question of whether or not it's a good idea. It's a question of not whether we can afford it, I suppose.
Yeah, okay.
That was my question. We'll wait till the meeting mid-December and Kelly can tell
Well,
us.
it won't be it won't be permanent improvement fund. It'll be out of the general operating.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, so.
But we still need to look at that time as well.
Any other questions?
No other choice for the police department.
Okay.
Could I make a remark about this briefly?
Briefly,
Can you go to the podium?
Sure.
quickly.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been patient with you all tonight.
Sure.
Thank you.
You were.
Thank you. My name's Carter Rummel, and I live at 3750 in Indian View. I would like to thank Councilman Ayer for the work he's done on this and his very responsive constituent communication. To me, after my car was broken into on Indian View, you know, I gather there was a car stolen off of Indian View the night after my car was broken into Indian View, and there's been other car thefts. So this issue is very timely. The reason I chose to live here in the greater Cincinnati area when I moved here from Louisville, I moved away from Louisville, you know, after what happened in 2020 in large part because the city's no longer safe. And that's a story I can tell, you know, another day. It involved Indian Hill, which is allegedly the nice neighborhood of, you know, of Louisville. But things can go south in a real hurry. And the safety we have here is something we should never take for granted. It is the precondition of everything else that we have in this village. It's the precondition of our property values, which in turn is our tax revenue, which is in turn is our revenue. So I don't think I need to speak a lot. I think there's probably a lot of support about these cameras and about making this investment, but I'd encourage us to look at this as a wildly effective investment in safety, which is actually an investment, you know, in everything else we do here. So I want to thank you. And in the remote event that there's not consensus support, well, that I can show up with a bunch of people in the next meeting who are my neighbors and on Indian View, but I don't think I'll need to do that. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, Carter, thank you for the nice words, but I just want to say that it was really Lieutenant Pitsley and Sergeant Geraci that did all the research.
good,
I was
good,
just
good. I mean,
I was just
whatever-
reporting the results. They did a great
Yeah,
job.
Yeah, no, it's clear a lot of work has gone in and it's great work.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
we are extremely blessed with our police department to maintain the kind of safety that you're talking about. Yeah, it goes beyond these cameras, the work that they do every day. All right, any other discussion? No? All right, motion and a second to adopt this report.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right.
I'm going to try to make this quick. Safety Committee met on Wednesday, September 18th, and this has to do with 3 topics. Traffic calming, Old Town Center parking, and then the Mariemont connector, but I'll just, that got tabled to the next meeting, so. Present were Safety Committee members Matthew Ayer, Rob Bartlett, Randy York, Council Member Bob Van Stone, Village Engineer Chris Ertl, Police Chief Hines, Fiscal Officer Kelly Rankin, residents Casey and Bill Dent, Marianne Schmidt, Louise Schaumburg, Pat Van Stone, Amy Bannister, Joyce Monger, and Bruce Trapnell. First item on the agenda was a traffic calming request. Casey Dent, resident at 6803 Mount Vernon since 2014, requested that the village consider adding stop signs at Miami Road and Mount Vernon Avenue and on Mariemont Avenue at Cash Pit to calm, that is, slow traffic. Mr. Ayer, Chief Hines, and Mayor Brown met with Mrs. Dent at 10 a.m. on August 6th to observe current conditions and discuss concerns regarding vehicle speeds. After discussion, Chief Hines agreed to set up the speed trailer, which counts traffic and records vehicle speeds. MPD conducted the traffic count over a 28-hour period on Tuesday to Wednesday, September 10th to 11th on Miami. Results were shared and discussed at the meeting, and they're attached to the report that's in the packet. Discussion, the trailer, we know, is a highly visible reminder to slow people down. Therefore, that the speed data that we collected was considered to be questionable at best as representative information. However, the traffic count, which was a total of 1,054 vehicles total in both directions during that 28-hour period, was higher than Chief Hines expected. Mrs. Dent expressed concern that a one-day, midweek count may not be representative and that traffic counts should include weekend periods. Chief Hines advised that MPD does not have equipment to conduct a speed study in an unobtrusive manner. Engineer Ertl advised that the cost for a traffic engineer to provide a one-day compiled speed data at one location is approximately $1,000. Mr. Bartlett and Engineer Ertl advised that the Ohio Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices specifies detailed criteria for implementation of a stop sign for traffic control based on various factors. Mr. Ayer pointed out that the OMUTCD is specific that stop signs are not used for speed control. Typical traffic calming measures include chicanes, islands, road narrowing, speed humps or tables, etc. Action. Chief Hines agreed to perform additional traffic counts on 2 Thursday to Sunday periods, one each on Miami and on Mount Vernon. This information can then be compared to the OMUTCD guidelines by Engineer Ertl. The trailer will be recharged in the midnight to early AM hours when the count data shows near zero traffic. The Safety Committee unanimously agreed to this approach. And so that's the first section of that. And I don't know if you've gotten to that, Chief, yet. I know you've been busy with other stuff.
Yeah, we actually just started working on that this last week.
Yep, okay, great. So we'll see how that all comes out. And this wasn't a formal process, like this is what we decided to do, but over the years it's been on the Safety Committee's agenda to develop kind of a procedure for looking at speed concerns, complaints, and needs for signage and that kind of stuff. So what we tried to do here is just kind of start a process there, okay? Let's look at the situation. Let's look at, see what the manual says that Ohio says that you should do. Let's get some real data. Let's check that data. Let's make sure it's representative, get more data if we need to. Then give it to Chris to give us an unbiased opinion as to what, if anything, is warranted by the OMU-CTD, if I said it right. All right. Old Town Center lighting, this is very simple. Mayor Brown assigned the Safety Committee the task of evaluating the possibility of lighting the municipal parking lot located on Chestnut Street near the Old Town Center. Chief Hines expressed a preference to add lighting for safety security reasons and noted that break-ins have been reported and that a general preference would be to have some local lighting as a preventative measure. Other objectives discussed included developing a lighting plan prior to putting a repaving project on the village permanent improvement schedule. If we're gonna put lighting there, we don't wanna do something where we have to dig something up that we just paved. Ensuring that lighting will not negatively impact nearby residents. The energy efficiency and consistency with the ongoing LED conversion. We'll want it to match up with what Bob is doing. Appropriate post lamps for the district consistent with our historic code. If we put new posts up, they're gonna have to go to ARB and they're gonna have to look good. And a preference to add lighting around the lot's periphery if possible without adding an island for lighting structures, if that works out in a lighting design. The committee unanimously agreed to develop a lighting plan for the Old Town Center lot to engage Cincinnati Waldorf School in the planning process, since they're right next to it and we may want to put lights on their building, and include consultation with resident Bill DeCamp of Bulbs Depot for referrals to lighting design expertise. On a side note, Ms. Schomburg and Ms. Schmidt expressed safety concerns associated with Waldorf students in contact with potentially polluted water of Whiskey Creek and an incident of a child observed near the stormwater outfall at Plainville Road. Mr. Ayer agreed to discuss these concerns with Waldorf School. And as a follow-up to that, I've collected a lot of information that's come from Ohio EPA and the Hamilton County Health Department that I can share with the Waldorf School. The bottom line is that we don't really have good data for that, but and I have not yet met with them. On the lighting proposal, I've not yet met with Bill DeCamp. That's just kind of our outline of what our objectives are. Then the Mariemont Connector, we put that off to the next meeting, and that's it for that report.
All right, you've heard the report. Any discussion? Any questions? No?
No.
Move to accept.
Pretty comprehensive.
No.
Second?
Did somebody make a motion? Did you?
Yeah,
Sorry,
Bob
sorry.
and
All right,
Randy.
Mr. Ayer?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right.
All right, final one. The committee met Thursday, September 26th, 4:30. Safety Committee members Matthew Ayer, Rob Bartlett, Randy York, Mayor Brown, Councilmember Bob Van Stone, residents Bruce Trapnell, and Kevin Beckman. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the subject agenda items which had been tabled at the September 18th meeting due to a lack of time. Mr. Ayer advised that Mariemont has been offered a $5,000 grant to be used toward adding landscaping features to the first segment of the Mariemont Connector, which goes from Miami Road to the library. The opportunity was made possible by grants for beautification of the crown from the Nellie Lehman Taft and the Louise Semple Taft Foundations, and it came via Tri-State Trails, which is a 501c3 organization dedicated to developing trail networks throughout our region. The terms are attached. A local match is encouraged but not required. The grant requires before and after photographs and documentation of expenditures. I attached the copy of what Tri-State Trails is offering us. There's essentially no strings to this other than we show them pictures of what we did and how much and documentation of what we spent. It's just, it's truly a grant. Here it is. Do what you would like. If you matched some of it, that'd be fantastic, not required. Mr. Ayer advised that the Mariemont Garden Club has agreed to study the paths plan and conditions and to recommend landscaping enhancements that can be achieved with this grant, potentially supplemented with some matching funds. A plan would complement the Mariemont Tree Advisory Board master planning for street trees in this corridor, so they're aware of what long-term TAB wants to do, and it would, again, it would complement and not interfere with or really even intersect with those plans. There's interest by a Troop 149 Scout to consider the landscaping enhancements as an Eagle project. The committee unanimously agreed to accept the grant, to ask the Garden Club for a proposed design and budget, and to encourage the use of Scout power in implementing a plan. That's the first topic. Second topic, the committee discussed a ribbon cutting ceremony once the path segment is completed. The contractor is expected to complete its work in the next few weeks, and they're getting very, very close, with the possible exception of the crosswalk beacon, which is due to delivery times. Ideally, the landscaping enhancements would also be completed prior to the ceremony. Mr. York noted that invitees should include ODNR, Tri-State Trails, and our county, state, and congressional representatives. The committee unanimously agreed to schedule a ceremony in the near future, likely for early November. Okay, next topic, planning for potential improvements to the intersections of Miami Road with Indian View, Lytle Woods, Short Murray, and Rembold. After discussion among the committee and all the meeting participants, the committee unanimously decided to communicate the upcoming study work in the November town crier from the safety committee. And this has to do with do we want to do something with the intersection at Miami and all those cross streets? We don't have to. Do we want to? This is an opportunity. While we're doing things, we can do additional enhancements besides working on a path. So what we want to communicate to the committee is we want to emphasize the primary objective centered on safety, and that's for path users, for pedestrians, cyclists on the associated streets, for drivers, and we want to emphasize that there's not a preferred option. Nothing's been suggested. The evaluation, we have some recommendations in a study that will be made public, but there's not a preferred option, not a top candidate, anything like that. The evaluation involves public engagement in a transparent, stepwise manner. Suggestions are welcome and will be carefully considered. We'll provide a link to the Choice One report that summarizes their study. It has all the traffic information, some options that they proposed, objectives that they have for the intersection. Get that out on that website and communicate it. And we would schedule the first of 2 public meetings, and we would, and then anything that we do, if it involves, we're gonna switch this road and close this one, or do this or do that. If it involves closing any roads, that we would do this on a temporary experimental basis before we move forward with any kind of permanent plans. We want to supplement communication of the time, place for a public meeting, and I'll link to the traffic study. Village website, village email list, town crier, door-to-door flyers. We want to do this best we can so that somebody just doesn't say, gee, I never heard anything about this, although we will. We want to consider cost-saving opportunities in these different realignment plans and options. We want to evaluate resident input from the public meeting via survey questions and comments, and develop a plan and schedule for experiments and evaluation, if that's what comes out of it. Implement advanced signage. If we do any of these experiments, we'll do that with Chief Hines, and we'll get assistance from our longtime volunteer, Ted Brown, who works on all sign projects. We would develop a timeline with milestones for the evaluation, including subsequent safety committee meetings. We will conduct 1 or more traffic experiments and evaluate results, if that's what comes out of the meeting. From there, we would recommend, the safety committee recommend a preferred option to council for consideration. And then at that point, we could consider authorizing construction drawings or engineering estimates for a preferred option when we come up with them. And if we can, if it's possible, we could seek grant opportunities from SORTA, from OKI Transportation Alternatives grants, or other grants with applications as early as May 2025. Mr. Beckman, a resident of Cambridge, indicated a preference for a simple solution involving intersection improvements without redirecting traffic. Mr. Trapnell, a resident of Thorndike, commented that safety should remain the primary objective in the process. The meeting adjourned at 5:45 p.m., respectfully submitted by the Safety Committee. And I drafted a town crier report. I mean, article that follows this outline. I hope I described it a little bit better than that. Shows a picture of what the intersection looks like now, and that this report will be available, that you'll be hearing about public meetings, in all these different media. And I sent that around for review by our engineer and by the safety committee and the mayor.
And that would be for the November issue.
Correct, for the issue that comes out the first week in November.
Okay. All right, you've heard the report. Any questions?
Yeah, I think we need to emphasize the experiments you're talking about are closing off Cambridge at Rowan Hill, and then also closing off, for lack of a better word, Short Murray, so we can let people know what we're expecting. And I thought we were gonna lay all that out, those experiments out at the first public meeting.
Correct.
That isn't clear in your report. And I hope it's clear in the town crier article, so people aren't in an uproar when they hear it for the first time at the town, or at the public meeting. That's all.
I had a lot to explain.
Oh, I
It's
understand.
a great,
I understand.
No, I just want to respond. It's not all in the town crier article yet. Why don't I send it to you and see if I can still tweak that for another couple of days. I'll send it to you and see, and
I think
let you read
closing
through
off
it.
those intersections is, at this point, more important than showing them the drawings from choice one.
Well,
That's-
if they read I don't know if people will read the report, but I know that the residents who are in that area are gonna read that report, and they're gonna consider it very carefully.
Yeah, they're gonna
And,
attend the meeting.
And so and my thinking was slightly different, is that we come out of that public meeting, we may not wanna do either of those things. We may think that those would be good options, and we come out of that public meeting, and that's really not what people want to do. It's a possibility. I don't really wanna predict or presuppose what will come out of the public meeting.
Okay.
So that was my thinking, right or wrong.
I just think we need that data before we think about what our options are. I mean, I would be surprised if people like the closing off at Rowan Hill and Cambridge. That solves all the cut-through problems in that whole area.
Well,
Okay?
but again, that's why we're gonna have the public meeting and let these people, express their opinions.
But, and opinion, everybody has an opinion, you know the old
Yeah, I know the old
story,
saying.
you know?
Yes, I know.
Data is so much more valuable than an opinion. That's why I just, the people in the neighborhood know what they'll do, but we don't know what the impact is gonna be from people outside the community in their traffic at rush hour. So I think the only way to do that is to do the experiments.
I agree with that, yeah. I
That's-
agree with that.
Yeah,
And I think we just need to give people warning that
Mhm.
we're gonna do this so we understand what happens to the cut-through traffic.
Absolutely.
The article is very clear that the cut-through is a concern. But anyway, I'll send it to you and see if you have any
Sure, okay.
comments.
All right, a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Vanstone. Mr. York.
Aye.
All right. All right, and miscellaneous. Leaf season will begin Monday, October the 21st. And just as a reminder, again, about leaf season, please don't rake the leaves into the street. Rake them just to the curb, on between the sidewalk and the street. I'll be reminding people of that as we go.
Hey,
Beggar-
Bill, I'm sorry, I think it's important that people understand why that's important, is that the water will rush it into the storm drain. Storm drain gets clogged up, and then it costs the village a lot of money to fix that.
It does. And
So it's not just a matter of inconvenience, there's a true cost.
And when
Having
they're
those
wet,
leaves.
when they're wet, it's like ice.
That's a
yeah,
good
they can,
point.
it's true. Yeah, it's true. All right, Beggars Night will be on Thursday, October the 31st. Make sure that you're well supplied.
Turn the lights off.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of beggars out. Be ready.
Trick-or-treaters.
Trick or treaters.
Oh.
All right, The December council meeting will be Monday, December the 16th, 2024. And that meeting will begin immediately after the end of the capital improvement meeting, which starts at 5:30. All right. All right, listen, guys, we have a list of resolutions to get through here tonight, so let's bear with me. A lot of these are third readings, so we're gonna have to have some voting. Some of this, though, I'm hoping we're gonna
Bundle.
together.
May I be excused? I don't get to vote.
You can leave, but you're not excused. All right. All right, are we ready?
Third.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't get to vote. I gotta give Chris a ride home.
Do you need some more water to get through this?
I just got,
I'm not, yeah, you're
I'm already choked up. All right.
Bill does that to people.
Thank you. No, I don't know if I can read it.
Oh, that's bad.
Sorry. Third reading.
Hold on, because we're gonna have the vote.
Okay.
Why don't we have Matt read the resolutions?
Great.
He's shown his talent tonight.
Thank you, Susan. All right.
All right.
Third reading, to reappoint Eileen Beatty as a member of the Architectural Review Board for the calendar years 2025 and 2026.
Not lumping anything with that.
You want me to, yeah?
Well, I mean,
Third reading?
yeah, go, put Peter in there, too.
All right, to reappoint Peter Wren as a member of the Architectural Review Board for the calendar years 2025 and 2026.
All right, a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York. Okay.
All right. Third reading to confirm the reappointment of Christopher M. Ertl as village engineer for calendar years 2025 and 2026, and to set compensation.
All right, a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Third reading to reappoint Rick Gibson as Mayor's Court Magistrate for calendar years 2025 and 2026.
Motion and a second to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mr. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
All right, third reading to reappoint Brad Lockhart as a member of the Parks Advisory Board for calendar year 2025.
Steve.
To reappoint Steve Pipkin as a member of the Parks Advisory Board for the calendar years 2025 and 2026.
All right, a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mr. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
All right, to reappoint Terry Donovan and Mandy Rohal as members of the Pool Commission for calendar years 2025 and 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
All right, should we just combine all these?
Yeah.
Invite as many as you can.
All right,
This is the
third
South
reading.
8, this is all South 8.
South 80. Third reading to appoint Andrew Seeger, Steve Spooner, Mark Glassmeyer, John Fakes, and John Morgan as a member of the South 80 Trails, Gardens, and Park Advisory Board for the calendar year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Third reading to confirm the reappointment of Edward J. McTighe as solicitor for the Village of Mariemont for the calendar years 2025 and 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone. Mr. York.
Third reading to reappoint Barb Whitaker and Kristen Van Scoy as a voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar year 2025 for Barb and for 2026 for Kristen.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ayer.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone. Mr. York.
All right, second reading to reappoint Steve Pipkin as a non-voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar year 2025. Second reading to reappoint Marianne Prue as a non-voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar year 2025. Second reading to reappoint Larry Gray as a voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for calendar year 2025. Second reading to reappoint Mary Beth York as a voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar years 2025 and 2026. Second reading to reappoint Margaret Jevick as a voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar years 2025 and 2026. Second reading to appoint Scott Reamer as a non-voting member of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar year 2025.
Okay, those are all second readings. We'll have the third reading next time.
I think we need a lengthy discussion.
Yeah, well, this is a discussion.
I'm
If you got
just-
one,
I just
speak
couldn't
up.
resist.
Moving
I'm
on.
sorry.
All right, now I got my voice back.
Okay.
Almost done.
All right.
Second reading to reappoint Scott Hamlin as a member of the Audit Committee for calendar years 2025 and 2026.
All right, that's the second reading. Any discussion? We'll have the next time. Okay. We'll go, the Stan Baylor one, which is coming up next, and one is for the Audit Committee and the other one is for the Racquet Club. I had a correspondence of which I forwarded on to you guys earlier today. He wishes not to take up these positions, so we're just pulling the resolutions, which leaves just the Kevin Taylor.
Second reading to reappoint Kevin Taylor as a member of the Mariemont Racquet Club for the calendar year 2025.
And that's the second reading. We'll have any discussion, we'll have the third reading next time. And we are adjourned.
Oh, boy. Good job, Bill. Okay.